Good afternoon. This is Dr. Bones Live with Britt for another edition of Bloggers Corner. We had an issue the first time around. Apparently the mic wasn't working at all, so I do apologize for that. So we're going to welcome Britt back to the show.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to try this again. Pretty much, well, first off, I said I seen Anchorman 2, which was very, very funny. A lot of good Brick moments and a lot of moments that they weren't too drawn out because they focused the right amount on it. And to name a few, there was one where they figured out their new manager at this new 24-hour news station is African American, and Brick said that he had a friend, and they were trying to convince him it was a shadow, and it was a shadow because they asked him, they're like, well, what happens when it rains? Oh, he goes home. Brick, that's your shadow. So, or yeah, so, and just the kind of dumb look on his face and the huge smile, and they hook him up with a girl this time. They end up actually getting married, and it was funny because in their own nuptials, he's saying, I remember one of our maid dates at the soda machine's in a laundromat. So they stand there and drink pop, and that's a date. they don't go eat, don't do anything at all. And he says, I remember one time when she found this wallet, and they're all waiting to say no, they turn it back in, and there's $200 in it. So he used all that in pop cans and other things, and then she tossed the wallet in the river. so that was one of his favorite moments with her. So that was a pretty good one. And but like I said, Brick's character was more emphasized on it, but it wasn't overplayed. They kind of gave him the right amount. And there was when he was doing the news, he thought he lost his legs because he was looking at the wrong screen. So it looked like the weather map was covering his legs and he didn't have any. He's freaking out. And Burgundy's trying to calm him down. And he's still freaking out, literally rolling all over the ground. So they cut away. And what they had done this time around to get back on top is they changed the format news, and instead of telling people what they need to hear, they told people what they want to hear. So stories about animals and they did a live car chase. They just picked up and completely improvised on it, and it was a very good scene. He's like, this driver may be tall, maybe short. I think he's a white man from Nevada, but maybe not sure. He's got a little bit of weight to him, possibly not. He may have a gun, but we're not sure. So it was completely improvised, but really, really funny, and that's pretty much what skyrocketed them back to the top. And at this point, he had split up with his wife because she got the number one newscaster job by herself and not with him. So he left her, and he started dating their new manager, and she's African American girl. And of course, he goes to her family's house for dinner, and it is one of the most embarrassing things ever because every I guess stereotype you can think of, well, I'd rather not get into, but any stereotype you can think of that some people. This is very touchy how to put this properly. Stereotype, and it just the way, I guess, you have to see the scene. I know I just don't know how to word it properly, so I don't want to step on any toes, but anyways, it's embarrassing, but it's funny. In the taxi ride home after, she's yelling at him. She's like, I can't believe you did that. He's like, oh, you're in fault, you invited me to dinner. She's like, yeah, I know, I'm sorry. So yeah, so it was a decent movie. Not as good as the first one, but about a star and a half, 2-star difference in rating. Obviously, the first one being more on top, and the second one, like I said, it was a very good one. It just seemed like there's a couple scenes that were a little just more drawn out, which is a little bit longer than the first one, which isn't always a bad thing. But when the scenes are drawn out a little bit too long, you kind of start just to lose a little bit of interest. So that's the only problem I can see with people having with movies is a couple of scenes, not too many, but a few of them were just a little too drawn out.
Yeah, I just find that comedy sequels can get a little bit repetitive. Now, I do love the Meet the Parents trilogy. I'm not gonna beat around the bush. That is a great trilogy in my humble opinion. But the issue that like The Hangover, that's a one-stop shop for me. I thought the first one was good, but I had no interest in seeing the sequels. Part of that just comes from not wanting to ruin what you remember. Because for me, looking back, one of my favorite movies was Legally Blonde. I love that movie. And then I saw that is a great movie. I love my girl Reese Witherspoon. I went blonde after seeing that movie. It inspired me so much. I'm a brunette, and I'm back now. So that's why I got a few, I'm now much edgier. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh.
But I was so disappointed in that sequel. It was the first time I'd seen a sequel, and I almost cried because I'm like, it's ruined everything, all my memories. So I had to watch the first one a few more times to get it out of like my whole mind.
No, was there a second Miss Congeniality?
There was. I've never seen it.
Okay, so you've seen the first one, then I'm assuming.
Yes, I have.
Okay, all right. So now I'm not a huge Sandra Bullock fan, but the movie was funny.
Right.
I think, I mean, more or less, kind of like I think the snorting was probably one of the funniest parts of the movie. When she's trying to be all ladylike and, like, when she's laughing.
Yes.
And putting Michael Caine in there, yeah, not a bad touch.
No, you never go wrong with Michael Caine. He really made that whole movie for me. And I agree, I'm not like a big Sandra Bullock fan. I do respect her because she was in this movie. She was in a movie this year with Melissa McCarthy, and she said she will never do a sequel to it because she knows that they cannot top what they did there. And I really appreciated that because I know some people out of greed would have milked it a lot longer. The Hangover. Yeah. And so. So I'm really glad that they're going to leave that pristine the way that it was. Very, very funny movie.
Oh, right on. I have not seen it, and it's kind of on the list. I mean, there's a lot of stuff like I've yet to see because right now the big hype is it Wolf on Wall Street?
Yes.
So I've yet to see it. I know it's about the whole deal, but I've yet to see it. But I know a lot of people have. So
go see it. It's brilliant.
See, that's what I've heard. So I've heard nothing but good things. But see, my only hindrance is like I know you're gonna probably probably kind of go what with this one is I'm not really a fan of Leo DiCaprio.
What?
There we go. That's the reaction I was expecting.
I thought I'd go all for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I know he's a great actor, the whole deal, but I don't know. I'm just not a big fan of him. I don't know. I never have. I think him being on Growing Pains kind of ruined it for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Hey, don't hold that against him. That was a good show. Remember that episode when Matthew Perry he passes away? That taught a really important lesson.
No, I'm not saying it was a bad show. I mean that is probably the only show in the '80s or only show now that you could get away with calling your best friend Boner. I mean, like obviously we know it's for his last name Stabone. Like obviously we know why, but it's still fun.
It was funny, and now looking back, that was not as innocent as I had thought when I first watched the show.
Well, nobody really thought of that. No, I didn't think of that until like years later. I was like, wow. I was like, huh.
I'm sure the writers knew. I think probably.
Well, someone had to know. Obviously, it was some sort of pun, but they were able to get away with it because I guess like a lot of people knew the term, but it wasn't that big a deal. I mean, now like anything and everything is just way, way too politically correct. I mean, there's got to be some wiggle room and room to move because it's more or less it's kind of making stuff like dull and boring a lot of times. That's why I'm not suggesting like that tomorrow you go like yell at your boss or tell them what you think of them or anything like that, or go and do something, we'll call it stupid. But I mean, some cases it's gets to be too much. So I mean, that's just my personal opinion.
I hear you.
But now, like I said, go ahead.
You're not a big fan of Mr. DiCaprio's because of the Growing Pains.
Oh yeah, I just that and Titanic. I was like done.
Well, I mean, for me, that was the height of his popularity. Or, I mean, I'm sure he's very popular right now, but it was the height of the whole young girls. Like, when I was, every girl I knew had his poster on their wall, and they're going crazy. And for me, that really turned me off to him, but he took some time away, and he came back. He's made some really quality films. Catch Me If You Can, The Aviator, one of my favorite movies of all time. This movie, The Departed, brilliant. And I think most of those were Martin Scorsese, but this is a really brilliant movie. This is the best performance that he's ever given, and it's definitely worth a shot. Even if you're not a fan, I think that he will win you over because he really goes all for it. I see him in kind of this conservative, even though I know he's a liberal. I am too. I am too, but the way he carries himself is, kind of buttoned down. I don't see him as wild and crazy guy. So in this movie, it's really surprising that he really lets loose. He's really going all out, and I really appreciated that. It is just a really good movie. It's 3 hours long, and it goes by very, very quickly. It's just a great movie.
Well, you had me until you said 3 hours long.
I personally, if I'm gonna go see a movie, I want to see, if you're, paying for an hour and a half, and you're getting 2 movies for one. So that's a deal.
Okay, no, fair enough. I mean, you're right. I mean, if they do go by quickly, it's better. But it starts to suck when you're looking at your watch and going like, oh my god, is this almost over?
Surprisingly, you will not do that because the reason is because there is so much jam packed in this movie that it's just sometimes you'll see a movie like if you're watching one of the Anchorman or something, you're kind of like, oh, this is going on a little bit. They're stretching something out. Everything is just jam packed in here. You would actually think they could go for another 20 minutes. They don't, but there's enough content there where it just constantly keeps you involved.
All right, I like it. It's definitely something to think about. So
I am wolfing this.
Okay. All right. Yeah, like I said, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's partially that, but yeah, but you gotta remember, like, at the time you're right, it was all the girl craze, and like, pretty much, no, any date you went on, oh, let's go see Titanic. It's like, oh, I've seen this thing like 5 times already. So.
Yeah, I know. When girls go crazy about people, it's typically it's kind of like I kind of go away from that popular figure, but he's earned it, I guess.
Oh yes, fair enough. I mean, like I said, I'm not saying he's a bad actor. He is a great actor. I'm not taking that away from him. I just not a big fan. It's almost like even though Ferris Bueller was really funny, it pretty much ruined Matthew Broderick. Because that's pretty much all people think about now is because it was such a typecast, such a funny role that all they think is this Ferris Bueller, and they can't. Well, at least I can't take him seriously, but I know a lot of people the same way. They can't take him seriously just because of Ferris Bueller.
Well, yeah, that's true. I think for people who are waiting for Matthew Broderick made a very funny movie a few years ago I think it's called Finding Amanda with I can't think of her name right now, Brittany Snow. It was a really funny movie. It was not like what you would expect from Matthew Broderick at all. It was underseen, perhaps, but I definitely enjoyed it. It reminded me of the hilt of his career. Now, warning, it is very crude, but, deal with it.
Well, nothing wrong with that. I mean, what can you say? A lot of times sex sells, right? So,
very true.
As the old saying goes. Not sure how old, roughly, but
Back to the old days.
Yeah. So, speaking of just like problems, issues, that sort of thing, I've had a few problems with my laptop this week. It wasn't plugged in, but mainly the internet. Now, the internet has done some great things, free porn, but sometimes it moves slow, bad provider, and sometimes it's frustrating, raws die up. And sometimes you need help from professional nerds, but they can't always help you. Useless. But I just want to thank Bill Gates for all his wonderful new programs, money grab, to help us navigate and discover our computers a lot more. Thank you. And that is my rant of the week. So, But
we need to get an applause.
Yeah. But the only other thing that I didn't quite set up like that was something I've noticed more last night, but I've noticed it quite a bit lately, is there's absolutely nothing wrong with people riding their bikes at night with dark clothing, apparently. So the thing is, they gotta realize, they tell you wear brakeless for a reason. Why? Because we can't see it until we're right on top of you. And the ones that are riding around, regardless of like light or dark, riding around when the roads are already slick from snow and ice, and riding in the roads with the other cars, not taking into consideration that, you know what, maybe if this car slides, he'll take me right out. So yeah, exactly, and it's frustrating. You know, there's other modes of transportation, walking, but it can be faster sometimes. So, anyways,
very true.
Yeah, so I just, like I just said, just some stuff I noticed. I just happened to go out I actually happened to go for a walk last night, and I just was watching this happen, and it was just driving me nuts. It's like, why do people not think, you know? And when it's this cold, you know what? I much rather bundle up and walk than ride on my bike and have that cold wind hitting my face the entire way.
I know, brutal.
So yeah, that's just a couple of things I happened to notice yesterday. Next, I want to get into, since I didn't see it, although I have plenty of time this week, I should have been able to sit down and watch it, but I haven't, so hopefully I'll get to it today, latest tomorrow. I wanted you to tell me about the new Arrow episode, because it's the first one of the season, the new season, right? Or
is right, past the mid-season.
Mid-season, okay. Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, back to you. No,
and we're back. Well, Tom, we're out here. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're fine. This week, they went from the island to Starling City, and basically not much happening in Starling City except the continued rise of who we know is Slade, and who Arrow knows is Slade, but for some reason keeps flashing back to the island where he remembers their bromance, or, you know, the end of it. And so, meanwhile, we're learning more about Sebastian Blood, who's the crony of Slade. And the person who comes on to him is a pill-popping Laurel. She becomes suspicious for no other reason than the fact that she really just doesn't want to date him and wants to date Arrow, but doesn't want to admit that to herself. And so she starts investigating him, and there's a big reveal towards the end of the show, but it's not really that shocking because we already knew he was a bad guy, and so that kind of plays out not very shockingly. Felicity, she is missing for the first 15 minutes of the episode. Thank God she returns. And her and Arrow have some conflict. There is some fighting, and it's not clear if it's because of sexual tension that Arrow feels but refuses to give in to, or it's that he's just being an a-hole. But nonetheless, Felicity sticks up for herself, which is good. And that kind of comes to a head. The lamest part of the episode was Roy, the lame boyfriend of Arrow's sister. He does a thing this week, and it's so stupid. I know. She yells for him. Roy will be just tending the bar at this club that they work at, and she'll just, Roy. Roy is standing there. He's fine with his well-manicured eyebrows. I don't know why you're, losing it. Calm down, girl, and please, I don't know what's going on. The stylist needs to get her hair. I don't know what's going on. It's like a reverse crimp from the 80s. Someone needs to work on that. You know what? But that was Arrow in a shot.
So was Diggle in the episode at all, or?
He was. He called Arrow out for his treatment of Felicity, but he wasn't given much. He did do a save that through the trusty work of a Kevlar vest, so I won't give too much away there, but he was not given as much to do. Everyone was kind of given a little to do, but a lot of different people got to do different things, if that makes sense.
No, right on. Well, I'm excited to watch it. Hopefully, like I said, I'll get a chance later today to sit down and watch it. I've got a whole bunch of shows on the DVR just waiting to be watched, and it's kind of incredible because literally I've had a whole week of vacation on, and I've done stuff around the house. I just sort of haven't really sat down and watched TV, which is maybe I would have had time for it, but I didn't. But I'll get to it. I'll get there first and foremost because there's a new episode next week too, and I'll make sure I'm on top of that. The one thing I actually forgot to mention about the second Anchorman was, like the first one at the very end, there's a huge news rumble, and they realize that there's so many news teams now because they're literally coming from everywhere. So They have the Canadians, which is headed by Jim Carrey, Will Smith, Harrison Ford, like a lot of big names this time around. And at the very end of the fight, pretty much how it's settled is by someone from the first movie who Burgundy had a few issues with, but it's pretty cool to see this guy back on. And kind of maybe crack up. I was like, oh, right on. Like, was pretty much my reaction. Like, I was pretty loud about it. So, but
Very cool.
but the one thing with Jim Carrey and the Canadians is it's funny because like it's somewhat of a stereotype, but it's also very true. Is we do apologize a lot, and it's just a lot of times it's for nothing, and. Their weapons were hockey sticks, pucks, and skates. So they're firing pucks, and every time they hit someone, they go, sorry, 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 sorry. So it was pretty funny, and obviously, like, obviously being in Canada, people all got that. It was one of those ones, just make it crack up. It's like, it's one of the, like I said, it's somewhat of a stereotype, but it does have its truth to it. We'll put it that way.
There you go. I was going to ask you, have you seen Spoils of Babylon?
I have not, no.
Okay, that's Will Ferrell. They're doing a mini series, if you want to call that. I think it's just a collection of shorts from funnyordie.com. They're making fun of the old 70s big mini series from back in the day, and Kristen Wiig is in it, and Tobey Maguire, oddly enough, and it's funny.
Right on.
I just putting it out there. I knew you're like a big Will Ferrell fan. I didn't know if you'd seen it.
No. I actually now I gotta put that down on the list that has to see too. No, I haven't seen that one. There's two other things. Sorry, just thinking of this now, and then we'll move on to the next thing. In Anchorman 2 as well, John C. Reilly's in it for a short period of time, and Brick ends up again with a weird weapon. Not a trident, it's not a hand grenade, it's a gun from the future. How he got it, nobody knows. But he's got some weird laser, and it kind of ties into, like he was telling him about this earlier, he was telling me that really happened, that in the future they're doing this and this, that, the other thing, and then of course, in the end, he's got this gun from the future, like, well, where did you get that? For the future? Yeah, but where? So, just as funny as like, Brick, where'd you get that hand grenade? I don't know. He's just like ready to throw it. Just see the guy killed Rod? Yeah, Brick, you might want to lay a little low. So, yeah, it was cool. Like I said, no, they emphasized more on his character, but it was not overplayed. Yeah, this week in rock news, there's not really too much exciting stuff. I mean, the only thing that kind of really popped out was an article on Perry Farrell from Jane's Addiction, and they're kind of doing it was kind of like a day in the life, and I think that they would have already done some of this. I mean, they might have, like, I can't say for absolute sure because I haven't looked back that far, but Jane's Addiction has been around since the beginning of the 90s, and Perry Farrell has fronted them and is still fronting them, and has had done a lot of side projects as well, one of them being Porno for Pyros, and just a bunch of little side things. Nothing really, really big. He did, I think it was a solo album, and not the greatest. It was all right, but I was like, now you're kind of reaching for the stars here, So, wasn't very impressed with that. But that was about 8 years ago, probably. But it's one of those things. No, you can't always do well doing solo, because a lot of times, people want to hear, even though it kind of defeats the purpose of a solo project, people want to hear kind of not the music that they play in their band, but something similar. And a lot of artists are trying to get away from that because, they want to show that, this band's this thing, but this is my own thing right here. And I'm just a bit of a harsh critic in general when I listen to music. I mean, I kind of pick it apart and pick it apart to death sometimes. But leading to solo projects, obviously some work very well, i.e. Paul McCartney and John Lennon, that sort of thing. But a lot of rock bands these days, and even like in the early 90s, kind of like the grunge era, guitarist and if you want to call it like backup singer for Alice in Chains, Jerry Cantrell, he put out 2 solo albums. Now they had a few good tracks, but the rest were pretty lacking. And it wasn't because I was expecting to hear Alice in Chains, but I would expect a little bit more out of him because he's the type of guitarist who just kind of likes to rock and roll. But so But that they were definitely lacking. I mean, the songs started kind of running into each other and kind of sounding the same, so didn't seem like there was like too much diversity to it. And but the one, however, I did like, and I was actually very surprised at how well it turned out. Again, this is a number of years ago. This is about '98. Dave Navarro, who is the guitarist for Jane's Addiction, and also, as a lot of people know, was married to Carmen Electra for a little bit. Anyways, he's one of those guys who has a lot of side projects, just like plays guitars on certain songs. But he did an album called Trust No One, and I was very impressed. I mean, that album rocked, and there was pretty much no big names on there, which makes it even better. That they don't have to rely on, we'll call it star power, to make good music like that. And he did a cover of the Velvet Underground song Venus and Furs, which was absolutely amazing. And that's one album I can speak a lot of good because it was fantastic and very, very well done. So that was very impressive. And the only other person I'm going to get to with solo albums, and we'll jump off this, and each time I just think he's flopped each time, was Chris Cornell. I love old Soundgarden. Not a big fan of the new album that came out a year or two ago. King Animal was called. But his solo stuff, it just seemed like really lacking. Like, I mean, I bought the first two, and the last one I bought, again, it was probably about 14 years ago now, but it was Euphoria Morning, and there was two good songs on it. The rest were, like, again, they were lacking. They seemed like way too long. And even this remake stuff he did, like with the electronic and stuff like that, was just really, really bad, and I can't believe he even tested the waters with that. I don't know what he was thinking. So, it's one thing to kind of do a few bad solo albums, redeem yourself with a new super band, which was Audioslave, pretty much with all the ex-members of Rage Against the Machine, minus Zach De La Rocca. And it went well for the first two albums, then it kind of started getting cheesy, and then that ended. And then he did this solo stuff, which is just like, why are you bothering? Like, who's actually going to buy this? Because I always turn off like right away. It's like, I can't listen to this. So there's my 2 cents on solo projects. All stemming from Perry Farrell. It's almost the 6 degrees of separation, eh? So,
absolutely.
All right, Britt. So your blogs this week. What did they entail? What were you doing this week?
I was getting people ready for the return of their favorite shows for the mid-season by covering the last time we left them. And that was the shows Arrow, which you talked about, the originals, the Tomorrow People, Rain, which is on the CW, which will be coming back next week. Once Upon a Time, that will be coming back in March, so people have to wait a little longer about Saving Henry. And then 2 new shows premiered. So I wrote a review for them. Killer Women. It about killed me to watch the whole episode. And the new show Intelligence, which stars Josh Holloway, who plays Sawyer on Lost. He's great, but the show, not so much. But if you missed him from Lost, definitely give it a go. It's just, for me, got too fascinated with its own special effects, and I just wasn't really feeling that. We've seen all those effects before done better, and I didn't really get excited about seeing that. I don't know if that show will continue, because the first week it did really well in the ratings, second week kind of dropped off, but CBS is known to stick by stuff, so we'll see what happens with that. Today I'll post 2 movie reviews, so stay tuned to the Twitter feed for that. It'll be Adore with Naomi Watts and Robin Wright now, and that is just a creepy movie, and not because it's a horror film. It's a horror film because this is like, the subject is so awkward. And then the other movie, Out of the Furnace, starring Christian Bale, Zoe Saldana, and Casey Affleck. Adore, horrible. Out of the Furnace, taking itself way too seriously. Scott Cooper. I mean, there are scenes in this where people just sit there and they just stare at each other. And it's so pointless. And I understand wanting to be meditative and be an amazing director, but there needs to be content. And this whole story could have been told in 50 minutes.
Oh, wow. Oh, boy. Well,
and I'm not a big fan of Casey Affleck. I'll just put it out there. Sorry.
Yeah, I only saw him in a few things. Obviously, he was in Ocean's 11. And the other one was, I can't remember the name of the movie, but Jamie Lee Curtis was in it. I wish there was a comedy. It was like a person was killed and everybody's blaming each other and they're trying to figure out, and they're driving around gremlins and like Oh.
Clue?
Uh, I don't know. I'll have to Google it later. I'll let you know. I just like I said, I just thought of it. I just can't remember the name of the title. Like I can picture like little scenes here and there, but not enough to. But yeah, those are the only two things I ever saw him in. I know he's been in more, but those are the only two that I can remember.
Yeah, it's just his voice is just, he always talks like this, and it's just like, dude, what are you doing? And I don't know what's happening, and I don't think it's, I've heard him in interviews, I think that's just an acting choice for the most part, and it's not a good one.
Well, you know what? It's kind of funny they mentioned that the thing with voices because you're right. Some people have like a Lonnie voice. I knew a few people like that, but not gonna get into them. But the other thing is the people that push their voice drives me nuts. And the biggest one, Vin Diesel, drives me nuts. Stop pushing your voice. Just talk normally, and it drives me nuts. It's like you can tell, and it just like I can't listen to him because that's all I think of. Is like thinking, stop pushing your voice, man. Come on.
Oh, well, this movie will drive you crazy. There are quite a few people who are pushing. I don't know if it was like pushing, like there's this thing to try to talk like, got gravel in your throat. And Forrest Whitaker does that in this movie, Out of the Furnace. And I don't even know how the man's throat survived.
Oh, okay.
It sounded like he had gargled glass.
Oh, really, eh?
Yeah, I was like, I don't know what he was trying to do there. Maybe he was trying to do a Batman impression or something, but it was not working.
It's the car, right? Chicks like the car. That's the best my Batman's ever gonna get. So.
That is there. Yeah, hey, that was Batman showing off his sense of humor.
Yeah, I know. I just like no. That's the one thing that sticks out, right? I mean, probably the only funny line that Val Kilmer spit out in that Batman movie.
I know. Yes, he that was wow. Val, I miss him. He's in Spoils of Babylon, by the way.
Oh, is he right on?
If you missed him.
Yes.
Has
he kind of slimmed down a bit, or is he still looking like he's bloated?
He's still a little fuller figured.
Okay.
He's not where he was at his, back in his prime. But I mean, he's slenderer than he had been. So good for him.
Yeah, I'm just curious because, for a while there's all those pictures in the news and the tabs and that sort of thing. So it's like, I'm just kind of curious. I mean, I don't really care that much. I mean, I'm glad you told me, but I mean, like, it's not one of those things that I need to know. So it's not something I go up and Google. Like, I wonder what Val Kilmer looks like now.
I know, isn't that so upsetting? You put in an actor's name, and they'll put fat after it, and I was like, what are you trying to accomplish by seeing this picture?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
Oh man, yeah. I just like the tabs can be brutal, and there's I think Jason Arnett says so. There's enough of a sliver of truth in them that. They can't be sued. At least some of the stories.
Right.
So he goes as much as we want it sometimes. He's like, we can't because there's not the sort of truth that it doesn't skew too far off, so it doesn't necessarily classify as like slander or defamation of character, that sort of thing.
Exactly. And then if they're gonna fight it by suing them, it's so much. It's so much that you can't police all of it, so they just have to let some stuff just go.
Well, that's right, exactly. And pretty much once it's out, it's out. There's not much you can do to hide anymore. Just pretty much the age we live in now. Like, there's really nowhere to hide, so to speak.
Very true. There's always someone with their cell phone camera ready to snap.
Well, that's exactly that's why you always got to be careful and watch what's going on. And this is a TV show, but the Mindy Project. Have you ever seen that?
Just a little bit.
Okay. Well, point being, she's in LA. She's at a conference, and she ends up in a pool with an old boyfriend who drops trow. And it was up on the internet because there was paparazzi and stuff like that there. So a party, and it's not just a party in LA. I mean, if you're a star or around that sort of setting, you never know who's gonna be around the camera. So
very true.
But the one thing is actually a thing of earlier, just because when you're talking about Arrow, about Felicity and Arrow. There is, I know I've talked about before, I don't think you've seen it, you might have, is the Brooklyn Nine-Nine, the Andy Samberg comedy.
I have not seen it yet, but it swept the Golden Globes.
It really is funny. They do have like the perfect mix of characters in there. So, but one thing I was getting to, I know now they're kind of starting to show. I guess they're trying to start a bit of a love story plot line with Andy Samberg and one of his coworkers, Santiago, because like they had this contest where whoever gets the most felony arrest, if he gets it, he's got to take her on the worst date ever, and if she won. What do you have to do? I think about that for a second because it was really embarrassing. But what happens is, they've started the day doing all this stuff, and then they're asked to go on a stakeout because no one else can get to it. So they go together, and they're there for a while. They start having fun, obviously, and their captain called them and said, what, the relief will be on its way soon. It's like, no, we don't need the relief. We're good. So obviously, it looks like they're starting to start a little storyline there. It's gonna hopefully slowly develop, like not too slow, but not kind of all once all in your face, because pretty much he razzes her like all the time, like he does with a lot of people in there. So, but like I said, it's a perfect mix of characters. Boyle, who's your kind of by the rule, kind of fun-loving kind of guy. Doesn't always know best, but he's a great character. And I wish I could remember his name, but. This guy was in White Chicks. He was a big African American guy, but he's really funny because this guy is just massive. He's like almost
Terry Crews.
Thank you. Like almost 7 feet and like at least 3 bills. This guy is just a tank. So and it's funny to see because for the most part he keeps his frustrations and wraps of what he does. It's like you want to stand back. By him shouting, it's like he blows you back like 5 feet. So. But still, my favorite is their captain because he literally just shows no emotion. And one of the last episodes before the midseason started, Boyle took a bullet to protect a fellow cop, and he got in the rear end. So he's pretty much running around on kind of like a Segway sort of thing, and which is awesome. And he rolled over the captain's foot, and just facial expression didn't change. I'm in very much a lot of pain right now. It very much hurts, but no breaking pattern at all. It was so funny, and that's what makes his character so good because he really doesn't have any emotion. And even something like that, he's in an incredulous amount of pain. Doesn't even crack a wince, nothing.
Wow.
So it's really funny. Like I said, it's a good group of mixed characters. So it's definitely worth it.
All right, on.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it. I do like Andy Samberg, but I would urge people not to watch Celeste and Jesse Forever because that's a terrible film. But you would think Rashida Jones and Andy Samberg, you would think that would be the greatest film of all time. It is not.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, so I'll make sure to keep that in mind.
Yes, please do. It's very depressing.
You know what? One thing. I'm not sure if it's showing up on American previews movies, but the guy's been off the air for a number of years, but it pretty much blew up. It was sort of a cult following to begin with. There's a series called The Trailer Park Boys, and they pretty much did their last movie, supposed to be the last movie about 4 years ago, called Countdown to Liquor Day, and now it looks like they're doing a new movie again. And apparently there's an 8th season floating around online somewhere. I haven't looked for it yet, but I'm kind of hoping to find it because it's just one of those things. It's pretty much about 3 guys growing up living in a trailer park, in and out of jail. One's pretty intelligent, and the other he's relatively smart, but one is just an idiot. Like he's just dumber than a box of rocks. But it's funny because the guy who plays him, Rob Wells, does such a good job convincing you that his character really is that stupid. And that's what kills me because Rob Wells is actually a very intelligent guy. And to see him go from that to play this like literally more than bumbling idiot is hilarious. Like he's got problems with the English. They had this one thing, if you want to look up, it's called the Ricky-isms. Just type in Trailer Park Boys Ricky-isms on YouTube. And it's really funny because his English is not the best. It's a lot of swearing, but also the way he doesn't get things. It's mystery of denial and error. No, this isn't. He's like, do you own this? You own space? No, NASA does. And stuff like that. Just like it's really funny, and he just you know he's like no, you make my words. You know, how's a little bottle of joy? And then the one time he's questioned by a cop, and she said, "I thought you said your name was Leahy." He goes, "Well, that's it's my mother's maiden name." Her maiden name? Yeah, her maiden name. So, right. So, yeah, it's really funny. But like I said, it kind of blew up more about it was a cult following for a while. And yeah, so it's about these three guys in a trailer park, and they're trying to get out, they're trying to make money, and one of them, Ricky, the dummy, is pretty much big time dopehead, grows dope. They make money that way, and their guys trying to do it the legal way finally, and like and as put by Ricky goes, I don't understand investments, so but they try to do that, and then there's Bubbles because there's Bubbles, Ricky, and Julian. And Julian is kind of like your kind of like 80s greaser, black mustache, like tight black shirt, tight jeans, the whole deal. Got the big gold earrings sort of thing. And then Bubbles has glasses on that look like they're like 4-pane windows. And so it's a surprise he could see it all, right? He pretty much looks like he's supposed to be blind.
Oh no.
Yeah. But no, he's a funny character. He's actually one of the smarter ones. But they actually had a lot of big Canadian names on the show. They had Buzz is a big Rush fan, so they had the guitarist Alex Lifeson come on the show, and Bubbles got to be his guitar tech for the show and that sort of thing. And then a big name in Canada at least, and actually she passed away not too long ago, is Rita McNeil. And they had her on. Pretty much what happened is the cops are starting to find other dope fields, so they have to go harvest quickly. And the two guys that usually help them out, they always tell them they screw up, blah blah blah, screwed up again, so they couldn't help them out. So they're start harvesting, and they see a bus come along, so they pull a tour bus over, and it's Rita McNeil and her, and her band, and they're on the bus. He's like, you know what? I just need your help, and of course he's swearing because that's how Ricky is. And he goes, you can take all you can carry, and then of course Bob was looking around. He's like, is this? Because it's Rita McNeil. And they're out now. They're out in the harvest field, and he's trying to get them to move faster. And he's like, I'm sorry. He goes, no, I'm just under a lot of stress. And Rita McNeil comes out with this huge punch. He goes, here you go, dear. This is a nice one. I was like, oh my god! I started dying laughing. So this like a contemporary like huge music icon. Just is like in this episode and handing this guy this huge pot leaf. So, like I said, it's. Well, I mean, if you like that sort of thing, it's one of those things that like it's so stupid it's funny. So it kind of drags you in to watch it and see what's going to happen next. It's one of those. But the thing is, it's the way it's filmed is it looks like it's a live show, but it's not.
Oh, neat.
So it's filmed completely that way. So it looks like you're watching like live television, but it's not the entire time. It's all scripted, the whole thing.
Cool. Well, that's a neat angle. I've never heard of the show, but it sounds interesting. It kind of sounds like a more like kind of like that show. Have you heard of the show Raising Hope?
I've heard of it. I haven't seen the episodes, but I've heard of it. Yeah.
I've just seen a little bit of it myself, but it kind of sounds like it's in the same, like a similar vein for people who might be familiar with that.
That's one way to put it.
Like a frame of reference.
Yeah. Might be familiar, like,
yes.
Almost. Yeah. It almost seems like you're unsure of your wording there because you thought about it for a second. It's like
yeah, I was slowing down.
No. That's completely fine. It's funny because like the first thing that popped in my mind is Homer when he's not thinking. His thoughts inside his head. He's saying it out loud because like there's one episode he's like, I'm going outside to stalk Lenny and Carl. They realizes after like.
Yeah, I think I do that to try to keep from like saying like trying to slow down.
And no, that's completely all right. I mean, I do that sometimes too, and I think about it after. It's like there's probably no need for that because a lot of times I'll do that when I'm doing a regular show and I'm talking about music. Then I know I'm trying to think ahead, think of the next one, what I'm gonna do next, and sometimes I forget. So like right now, what I was getting to is no. So It happens sometimes. I just like I said, I just point out because it's funny, not because it's a bad thing. It just something.
And I appreciate it.
Yeah. So that's gonna about wrap it up for this week for Bloggers Corner. Thankfully, the second go at it worked because the first one we had microphone problems, and I do apologize for that. But we got everything we need to say back in, so you guys didn't miss anything. I hope. If not, it's gonna be up there later. Britt, like always, thank you so much for coming to the show and doing this. We'll look forward to reading more of your blogs, and we'll have you back on next Saturday.
All right, thanks for having me. Had fun, had a blast.
All right, until next time, guys, this is Dr. Bones and Britt saying have a good time. Thanks for listening, and Bones, I will see you next week on Bloggers Corner.